All right.
Cassandra, YouTube. You're good to go. Okay.
All right. Hello. This is the April 27th, 2023 City of Bend Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting starting at 12:01. We will begin by doing a roll call. My name is John Halen, he, him. I am chair.
I've got a slide if you want me to go through it, just so that it's easy to make sure we get everyone online. Is that okay? Carl, you go ahead though next.
Great. This is Carl Burnett, Vice Chair, also he, him.
Corey?
Hi, this is Corey Sparks. My pronouns are she, her.
Oh, Corey, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now? Oh, no.
Maybe we can't hear anyone here.
I can hear Corey on my end.
I can hear Corey too.
I
Yeah,
think
they can hear
I
us.
think they can hear it online, but we can't hear it in tech. Love it. Love the tech. Okay.
Maybe we could
Yeah,
try somebody else online and see if we can hear anyone else.
Aaron, you want to go?
This is Aaron Rivers, he, him pronouns.
yeah.
Can't hear him. I can see the transcript, but I can't hear him.
Oh, is it just a matter of turning up the volume on our speakers there or something?
How about now?
This is Aaron. Can you guys hear me?
There we go.
Stephanie, thanks.
Okay. This is Aaron Rivers, he, him.
Thanks, Aaron. Corey, do you want to go back to you?
Yeah, I'm Corey Sparks. My pronouns are she, her.
Nick?
Nicholas Braden, co-pack member, and he, him. I'm wearing a blue polo today with blonde hair.
Whitney?
Whitney Bennett, she, her.
Steph Hantzman, she, her.
Derek online.
Hi everyone, Derek Hoffbauer, he, him pronouns. I'm one of the new members of COBAC, so happy to be here and looking forward to today's meeting.
Thank you, Derek. Liz.
Yes, I'm Liz Deether Martin. I'm also brand new here and go by she, her.
And Liz in the audience. Hello. Thank you.
Great. If that's everything, we're going to go on to the land acknowledgement read by Carl Burnett.
We would like to acknowledge that the beautiful land known as Bend, Oregon, north to the Columbia River, is the original homeland of the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. The Confederated Tribes ceded this land in the Treaty of 1855 while retaining regular and customary hunting, fishing, and gathering rights. The Wanalama, Warm Springs, Wasco, Wasco, and Northern Paiute people inhabited this area in certain seasonal times that clearly established their presence. It is also important to note that the Klamath Trail ran north through this region to the Great Celilo Falls trading grounds. This trade route expanded the impact of commerce between tribal nations. We acknowledge and thank the original stewards of this land. It is our hope that guests continue to honor and care for this land.
Great. This is John. Move to approve the March 20. Oh, does anyone have any corrections on the March meeting minutes from March 23rd, 2023? If not, I seek a motion to approve the March 23, 2023 minutes.
I will move to approve. Oh, I'm sorry. This is Carl. I move to approve the minutes.
And this is Nicholas. I approve or second that motion.
All right, all in favor, raise hands or say aye. Motion passes. We now have 4 minutes for public comment. Is there any member of the public that would like to speak either online? Please raise your hand. No attendees. Anyone in person? Nope. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 5. That's the Equity and Inclusion Director update with Stephanie Betteridge.
Great. Thank you, John, and thank you, Koback, for making time in today's agenda to provide a quick update on where we're at with the Equity and Inclusion Director recruitment. But before doing so, I just wanted to pause and thank both the new Koback members as well as those who have been serving on this really important committee for a while, to thank you for your time and your service. Your insights, your experience, and your expertise is absolutely critical to us, making sure that we're providing the services to the community that are aligned with the needs of the community. So thank you all so much.
Here, here.
So I have some exciting updates on the Equity and Inclusion Director. Since I last joined this group, what was that, a month or two ago? The recruitment for Equity and Inclusion Director closed. We had over 70 applicants for this really important position. We have gone through a couple of rounds of interviews. And so we started with 70. We had interviews working with our consultant who's helping to lead this recruitment. We interviewed 7 candidates last Friday, and then we will be inviting the top 3 or 4 candidates back on May 12th for both a panel interview and then a community meet and greet. John will be representing Koback in that meet and greet so that we can make sure that Koback has an opportunity to provide feedback on those candidates. And we continue to include you in the process. It's as you know, this position will be overseeing the equity department, working very closely with Lisa and Cassandra. And so we want to make sure that whoever we bring in is well aligned with the vision of the organization and council as well. So that is where we're at. My hope is that by your next meeting, we will be able to announce who our new director is.
Great.
Excellent.
That's great.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, bus stop improvement project update, Cascades East Transit with Eric Lint.
All right. Hi, thanks for having me, Chair Halen and members of the board. Excited to be here. My name is Eric Lint, he, him. I am the strategy and program manager for Cascades East Transit, which means I do a lot of policy and procurement type work. So I have a brief presentation to share here. Whoops. Oh, you got the slides. Awesome. Okay. So
Do I have the, Lisa, I'm so sorry.
They're up there.
Do I have the slides, Lisa? No.
He was going to.
Do you want to screen share, Eric,
yeah,
or?
do you want to stop yours?
Yeah.
Oh, stop mine.
Absolutely.
So this is just a brief overview of our new bus stop improvement project. You look around, you might see the shelters that we have on the road and the bus facilities. They're old, and we want to do better and make this a more attractive service. So like a lot of things in Bend, you know, we're playing catch up and we get to make the system that we want to have finally. So we're making a lot of system improvements here. This is just one piece that is happening right now. And I'll go through this and then describe a few of the other things that we're working on and give an update on ridership and other service features. Looking at the shelters, like I said, they are old. A lot of these were hand-me-downs from other agencies. We've got some from Salem that are 20+ years old, for example. And the ones pictured here, the glass panels are broken out. That's kind of a common thing here. Half of them have extensive damage. That's the one pictured across from Costco at is it Rivers Place food trucks. The one across from St. Charles has one glass panel remaining. And that's part of the problem that we want to fix here, but we also want to make this more accessible and more comfortable to use. benefits, we tried to follow ADA and PROAG in everything that we do. The picture here was on the front page of the bulletin last summer. And if you guys are familiar with transportation, there's a thing called desire paths. That's like when it snows, you see the footprints taking a shortcut. And that shows that there's desire to go that way instead of around the corner, right? So similar thing here, there's a demand for chairs where there are none presently. People care about this. They want to ride the bus and they want to have these kind of amenities. So in the absence of it, they'll provide their own. It's a kitchen chair, picnic chair. We got cinder blocks out there, and that's not always safe. And it's just frankly not right. We should do better. So there is this demand here, and our team is working to prioritize key stops, whether that's high traffic locations or priority facilities like healthcare and key work destinations. But the great thing about this particular project is it's shovel ready. We've got the bus stops out there, and we can add shelters as soon as they come in. We can put them out there. So, a little bit of data here, because it's not just a good idea. There's data behind it. Looking at King County Metro, they did a study, I believe it was with the University of Washington, looking at different kind of amenities that were installed and the impact that it had on ridership. New and improved shelters had 81% increase, and when you progressively add additional features, it dramatically increases. And they controlled for different factors like the neighborhood and existing ridership levels and so on. And this kind of fits with our plan here, is that this is a progressive program where we will get the shelters out there and then we can add more things as we go. Utah Transit Authority, probably not, people's first thought for big transit areas, right? And you think New York City or big places like that, but they did a really great study here that focused especially on paratransit usage. And that decrease here of 108%, that's good, because that means that the regular bus system is more friendly to encumbered users. It's being improved so that can be serve everyone. So that's something that we would like to see as well, that you can improve the service so that dial-a-ride services can be used for those who most need it and aren't able to take the bus. And then London, well, that's one of those big cities, not the greatest comparison, but good data nonetheless, showing that it increases satisfaction, not just generally, but especially for encumbered users by almost 150%. So adding these amenities really makes a difference. Here in Bend, we have some options. So we did an RFP last fall and we're going through purchasing now of this style here that we see at top. These are from Toller Manufacturing down in California. And these ones have aluminum panels, so they're resilient. If there is graffiti or whatever going on, we can just take a power washer out there and take care of it. It's perforated aluminum panels, so it's still see-through, but it still blocks the wind, crucially. So, like I said, this project is not just right now. We're going to do a couple things. We want this to be a long-term project where we improve the entire system. So looking down the road, we'll look to add solar powered lighting where we can't just add conduit and connect to existing facilities. And a big project that's coming up soon is real-time signage. We want to be able to make it so that you know when that bus is coming, that it's arriving at this time. It'll show if it's arriving a little bit late, a little bit early, what your options are on digital displays. Corey, I see a hand. I think you're muted.
Oh, I'm here now. Hi, Eric. So the shelters that I see here on these photos, they look like they have that they could kind of be considered like hostile architecture because of the bars over the seats. And so which would, prevent like homeless people from sleeping on them basically. And also they can be difficult for certain bodies to fit in. I'm wondering if the city is considering any of those kinds of things when deciding on design of this kind of structure.
I appreciate the comment. Thank you. And this is Eric again. The ones pictured here aren't the exact model that we're using. You'll notice that the ones pictured don't have a back as well. So we're purchasing benches that have a back. They do have an armrest, and they're 4 feet long, so perhaps not ideal for long-term usage overnight. But we do hope that they will be comfortable and more appropriate to a broader range of users. And the seating is a little wider there. So yeah, that is something we consider too.
Thank you.
Thank you. As far as price, they aren't as cheap as they used to be. I think 15, 20 years ago, these were about $5,000 a piece. And for the type that we have presently, these more robust shelters, they range from 12,000 to 20,000, depending on the size. They are modular in 4-foot panels. So most of our shelters about 8 foot wide. Larger facilities can go up to 16 feet. That's what we'll be installing at Hawthorne Station, for example. So to have more benches inside and accommodate more people. And our goal is to have 25 new in this next phase. We've pursued funding through a few different sources and received a generous grant from the Bend Metropolitan Planning Organization, which Barb Campbell is a member of. And that will give us the seed funding to kick off this project with about 15 shelters. Writing a grant for 10 more. And our current on the street, we have about 40 shelters, I want to say, in the city of Bend. We want to get at least half of those replaced in the next year. And then, like I said, make this a continuous project where we improve the entire system. And that funding I mentioned is from sources targeted for the city of Bend. We are Cascades East Transit, and we serve the entire region. So we are looking to do this out in Prineville, Madras, Redmond as well. Now, one thing I'll note here too is that these style shelters, these are the ones that we have under current procurement, but we are going to go back and look at additional options. So I'd appreciate your feedback if you have thoughts on styles that you'd like to see. I'll switch over to show you some other options as well. If you have any considerations that you want to point out to us, I appreciate it.
Well, I have a question about that. This is Liz. So it's aluminum, not as hot as steel, but hot in the sun, or?
These ones are used a lot in Texas that we saw when we were doing some market research. Texas, Florida, California. So some of those hot climates, these are being used a lot successfully.
They do ride buses there.
It can get hot, but I don't think it should be like a hazard from reports that I've seen.
Right, but unpleasant would also
And
not
exactly
be helpful either.
Yeah, and that's what benefit to doing this in somewhat of a phased approach is that we'll get to see how it goes with those first few, and if there is a glaring issue, we can change course. But I hope not. We did some market research and talked to other places and heard about their experience, and that didn't seem like an issue. Yes.
This is Carl, wondering if you could just talk about any accessibility features for either mobility impaired users or vision impaired users that you guys have been considering as part of this process.
Well, as part of this, we're going to be rehabilitating some of the sites at the bus stops. So you may know about 15 years ago, City of Bend underwent a lot of ADA upgrades to infrastructure facilities around town, including bus stops, to make them ADA and ProAg compliant. So wheelchair landing space, the technical specification is 5 feet plus or 8 feet total from the curb. We want to improve that so that it's actually comfortable and not just bare minimum. So we're going to be rehabilitating some of the bus stop sites so that they provide more clear space to maneuver, so that you can be comfortably seated underneath the shelter alongside the bench. So the benches aren't going to go to full length, but they'll provide space for wheelchair users as well. And then as far as vision impairment, we do have trail signage. We're looking at ways to improve that and to, of course, when we go to electronic with the real-time signage, I don't think we'll have braille readers or anything like that just yet, perhaps at the big stations, but we will integrate that into the new site plan so that it's easy to find and access in a routine manner so that you can expect that will be here when you need it. So you go to this part of the stop and it's there for you.
That's great. On the space for wheelchairs, I think that's great. That's important. I wonder if there's any thought given to accommodating more than one wheelchair or a wheelchair user plus, say, a cyclist or a wheelchair user plus somebody with some luggage, something like that. Those spaces with no benches, I think, get used by a lot of people besides just wheelchair users.
Yeah, no, thank you. This is Eric again, and that is a little bit site specific. Some places we only have enough space to put an 8-foot shelter in there, and then I'll have a 4-foot bench and a 4-foot clear space.
Okay.
And I think that's the plan for most, is that it will be half and half.
That sounds great.
And down the road, we'll be adding bike facilities as well at certain key stops too.
But yeah, this is John. One feature of the bus stop by my house near Brookswood and Powers is that it's situated in a way where the bus driver doesn't see me. So I sometimes have to fly. Are you considering the position of these so that, you know, I would imagine someone who has poor eyesight can't see that the bus is coming and flag it down. And with the potential upgrades in the future, is there a possibility of having an announcement system on these bus stops that announce when the bus is like a minute out or arriving?
No, that's a good point. Thank you. It's Eric again, and that's something that we're considering for the real-time signage because it's electronic, right? So theoretically, we have the opportunity to do that. Not all vendors include that, so we're going to look for that as a core component to enable the accessibility. Sorry, what was the bus stop question again?
Oh, are you considering, this is John, are you considering the position of how the bus stop is situated in relation to the street for eyesight, or for driver's sight, so they know that someone's at the stop?
Yeah, this is Eric again, and that's going to be one of those site-specific considerations. Again, we'll be working with local engineers to determine how to place these, for example. They can go perpendicular or parallel to the road, for example. We can remove one of the side panels if that is, weighing the pros and cons. Removing that piece of shelter increases visibility, and it's worthwhile at this particular location. So we'll be looking at those kind of factors.
This is John. I just have one more question. During the winter, a lot of rock gets flown up from the road. How often do your maintenance crews go by to like sweep the bus stops?
Honestly, that's one of my pet peeves. Personally, this is Eric again. And I think I'm going to be heading out there in the next week or so and take an inventory of that. Because I've seen City of Bend street sweepers out there getting the bike lanes, but we've got to get our facilities too. So we'll be working on that.
Well, I remember in San Francisco that you can actually, as a citizen, adopt drainage and name it. So maybe someone could adopt a bus stop to take care of.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Eric again, please rein me in if I'm going long here, but I love talking about this stuff and there's so much context to give. No, looking at some of those older shelters, that is something that happened previously, like Rotary contributed a few by donating funds. And that's the kind of program that we can look forward to in the future as well. I'm trying to create a standard so that we can work with developers, for example, of affordable housing communities or just any community. If they want to integrate transit at their location and it's an area that we serve, we can give them a spec, we can make this available, and there's options where they can customize it for their look and feel as well.
Could I
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This is Bart Campbell. Sorry I was late, everyone. Welcome to new members. Excited to be here. Thanks so much, Eric. I'm super excited about this project as well. I'm kind of thinking the same things that Lisbeth and John were thinking about as far as that orientation. These pictures and every place I've ever seen, they were parallel to the street and that was it. You know, I'm thinking about oriented with regard to weather and, you know, kind of like what Lisbeth says, you know, what that picture up there shows you're getting this nice shade. But if that were turned the other way, it's the opposite and you have no shelter from weather. Do you have, you know, can you just, you know,
Yeah, no, that's something that we're looking at, this is Eric again, and that's part of why I'm looking at going back to RFP to expand our options too. If these turn out to not be appropriate in every case, we have things that can offer slight modifications. For example, we can do clear panels, glass panels again,
oh, good.
and that
Okay.
might be a trade-off that would be, you know, worthwhile at places.
And meet that compromise between the driver's got to see that somebody is there, but we want the someone to be, you know, we're frankly spending a lot of money so that the someone will be comfortable and we want that comfort to actually be delivered, right?
And for example, that can be useful if you know, they're typically open towards the road.
Right, yeah,
So what if you've got the big splash area or the wind.
right,
comes
right,
in that way
exactly.
typically.
Yeah,
So that might be a location where we would consider that glass and putting the shelter towards the road
great,
so that the entrance is on the sidewalk and then you can walk around to get on the bus.
great. Thank you.
A couple of questions. I think for that too, I've seen some jurisdictions have this is Nicholas, by the way, have like a light that indicates for a bus driver that someone was there. But my question is more regard to the real-time signage and the announcements, just ensuring for blind and deaf individuals how they can be able to access that information. And if there's any considerations for if someone's there and they need to contact CET, say the bus has been canceled that day or running late, how they can find an alternate method to be able to contact, get a ride.
Yeah, thank you. This is Eric again. These are great points and I appreciate that. I love these committees because we get so much good feedback. These are kind of things that we're considering as we're formulating our approach to real-time signage. We're still kind of in the exploratory phase right now. I think we have a little nugget of money to pursue that, but not go after the whole thing just yet. So that will probably be later in the year. And a little bit of background, we just activated our CAD AVL systems on the buses last December. That's the computer aided dispatch automatic vehicle locator system. So that's pretty much your GPS that shows where the bus is at any given time. Now that we have that smart system, that's what enables us to now go after that real-time signage so that it's connected to the broader network and we can do these readouts, but it can also get notifications that this route is canceled today because we don't have a driver for whatever reason. So like you said, those notices at the site, that's going to be a tricky issue to figure out. Like, do we have a push button, like a crosswalk button as part of that accessibility feature? Or how would that work with a motion sensor, for example? So that's something we're keeping an eye out for sure.
Have you, this is Liz, have you considered an app, you know, for the bus arrival time? I've used them before. They can be helpful to some people, and people with disabilities might already have their app configured to work for them, whereas your signs, you know, work for some people, speakers work for some people.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. This is Eric again, and that's one of my other projects right now as well. As part of that new technology changeover, that vendor has their own app, so we're trying that out, but it doesn't have the best
Yeah,
accessibility features.
right.
So
Yeah.
We did a live pilot with that. We're evaluating it. There's another app we've worked with before, and it has limitations as well. So we're trying a few different things. We're trying to make as many different options as available as possible. You can use Google Maps, for example, as well. But that is the current project, and I don't like what I've been seeing, so we're gonna do something there.
Okay.
Right.
Great. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I've got a couple more items. Let's see.
Okay.
I'll go through real quick and just at a glance here, these are get an idea of some of the other options there are. These are some of the companies that bid in our last round. So there is a good variety out there. I'm just going through a little bit quickly to demonstrate. So there are other options. So if you guys have feedback, we are not stuck with this style of shelter, and we can do what's best for our community here. So very quickly, ridership update. This is looking at the past couple of years here. We did 2021 through 22, starting March through February, and then the immediate past year. The dotted line is the year prior, and the solid line is the immediate year prior. So looking at the blue line, that blue dotted line, we see a sharp downturn in June, July of 2021. That's when the Delta variant came out. And we thought we were getting back in the swing of things, and well, there you go. Ridership has been increasing. So our fixed route, the buses that you see on the street, those are relatively flat. But next month, we are going back to our normal service. We've been on reduced service pretty much through the pandemic. You know, hourly service, and we did what's called interlining, where we combine lines for efficiencies. We're splitting those out the way they used to be. We're going to 30 or 40-minute intervals and looking at how we can further improve things. So starting next month, we're hoping that ridership will get back to where we want it. The red lines there are the dial-a-ride services, and that's one we've been seeing a lot of usage. We're getting new riders, and that CAD AVL system, the computer-aided dispatch, that's creating a huge efficiencies for our dial-a-ride service. It makes it so that they can plan the routes. You know, as people reserve their rides, we can find the best route and pick up as many people as possible and get them where they need to go. But as that's happening, we're getting more people asking for rides. So it's a good problem to have. And we're working to improve that as well. Very quick roundup of what's been in the works for us. As mentioned, that computer-aided dispatch gives us dynamic scheduling abilities. With dial-a-ride, we've also added SMS texting service that can give you a 5-minute warning that your ride is on its way, kind of like the rideshare companies will do for you. As mentioned, we're looking at real-time fixed route info, and that's going to be both via apps and eventually on sites. Travel training is a big one that often kind of gets forgotten, and that's a little bit of jargon, but what that is going out into the community and teaching people how to ride the bus, because it can be daunting, right? You don't know how to pay for it or navigate to where you want to go. So our staff will actually meet with people either one-on-one or go to a senior care facility, for example, or high school students and all this. So that's a program that we're really ramping up again here too. And other things, looking at website improvements and improving the process for applying for dial-a-ride. We've had some issues where you have to keep calling providers to verify information. We want to make that as simple as possible for folks. We don't want this to be a burden for people getting what they need. And we're also bringing on new buses. That's pandemic-related shortages, and those kind of impacts are dragging the timeline out longer than we'd like, but we are getting new vehicles out there, and we're increasingly going to either smaller vehicles or those big low-floor buses that don't have the lift that takes a while. It's just that low-floor plus that you can ride on. So just a few of the improvements that we're looking at here. That's it for me. I'm happy to take any more questions. And for those in the room, I left some business cards on the table here too. So feel free to reach out anytime.
Eric, this is Cassandra. Thank you so much for this presentation. Had a quick question for you. So some of the vendors that you showed kind of had incorporated advertisements within them. Who controls the advertisements, I guess, if that's something that you ultimately go with the design? And is that something that Cascades East Transit does, or is it a third party? I know this is a
Yeah.
peculiar question.
No, thank you. This is Eric again, and that is a good question. We have a very small advertising program right now that's run by Derek Hoffbauer, who's my coworker and your new board member.
Cool. Follow up with him.
So it is kind of modest program. It's more oriented towards the signs that you see on the side of a bus, and a few other things. Big cities like Seattle, they'll hire a contractor to just manage the whole thing for them. We're still debating how that can work. There might be changes in how we do public transit here in the near future, and that might be something we'll consider going down the road. But at this time, we're not looking at the advertising, at
Thank
least
you.
for bus stops. But it could be an option working with our city partners and depending on bend code, for example.
Thank you.
One last question. Do you, this is John, do you foresee CET charging bus fares in the future? And if so, are there going to be discount cards for seniors, people with disabilities, people under 16, for instance?
No, thank you. That's a great question, Eric, again. We are exploring our options. It's a possibility. We're not settled on anything at the moment, but even in the before times when we did charge fares, we always have discount programs available. We're currently fare free on everything except for recreation services. So Mount Bachelor, Ride River, those ones still have a fare associated with it because that's, fun activities where people are trying to get to work and the hospital and all that. We want to, serve the public. We are public transit first. That is our mission. So if we do reinstate fares, they will, one, likely be affordable and with options to waive that or have special class fares.
This is Liz. Thank you, John, for asking the question. And Liz, do you mind coming up to this microphone so our remote participants can?
This is Liz Woodbin. Thank you so much, John, for asking that question about fares. A follow-up question to that is, how much time will you give the community if you make a decision to reintroduce fares?
Great question. Thank you. This is Eric again. Pretty much all of our big policy goes through advisory boards that Derek also manages. He's our outreach administrator. But we have a regional public transit advisory committee and accessibility focused ones as well. And we strive to have a broad representation on those committees so that disabled folks are represented, elderly communities are represented as well. And we'll always go to them first and make available this information. And we don't anticipate any scenario where it'll have to be something that just comes out of nowhere. We do want to work with our community.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it. Thank you so much for coming in and giving us some of your time.
Exciting developments.
Okay, shall we move on?
Yes.
All right. We're moving on to agenda item number 7, community advocacy opportunity regarding the use of service animals in establishments. Is Christopher here?
Yeah, I'm not seeing Chris and I did not get notice, but maybe I could just give a little context for the group. It's something that we'll plug in a little bit later. Chris had contacted me and said that he had some issues with his service animal on a patio of one of our bars. And he wanted to come before KOBAC to share that and then potentially partner with KOBAC and maybe the source or some other newspaper article, just to kind of give businesses, especially as we come into spring and warmer weather, thankfully, FAQs about what to do with service animals, specifically what they are and are not allowed to ask, and just best practices. So I think that is kind of the representation I think Chris had, and that's something that we could look into our initiatives that come from our strategic plan. Maybe partnering with him offline. And I think that I'll follow up with him and just see if that's something we can move forward with.
Great. Moving on, number 8, new member introductions. All right, should we start with Stephanie?
So I just almost took a. Thank you for including me on the council. My name is Stephanie Etzman. I work with Ability. I'm an independent living specialist and assistive technology specialist. And so I've been working in the with people who experience intellectual and developmental and acquired disabilities for about 20 years. And so I'm super excited to be a part of this. And thank you for inviting me and approving me, I guess.
Thank you.
Glad you could join us.
Kelly,
And Kelly is absent today.
Okay.
She wasn't able to make it.
got it. Derek.
Yeah, hi everyone. Derek Hoffbauer, he, him pronouns. Just super glad to be here. My colleague, former colleague Ashley Money was on the committee for a while. She moved to Florida. And so, you know, we really benefited from that conversation around public transportation, accessibility. And so, you know, I'm really looking forward to being in this role where we can have a really good conversation about advancements in our city's transit system. As you heard from Eric, we have a lot of interesting projects on the horizon, and you know, we want to make sure that those are accessible and that we're getting feedback from the committee as we move forward with those projects. So just really looking forward to providing information to the committee, receiving feedback from the committee, and then just advancing accessibility initiatives in general within the city of Bend. So thanks for having me.
Great, thank you, Derek. Liz.
Yes, I'm Liz Deetha Martin. I have been working in digital accessibility for a couple of decades, and also work with a University of Washington based research team that works on all forms of making technology accessible and then making life accessible through technology. So I was very excited to see that this board was here, or this committee was here, and really happy to join, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. And other Liz, if you can come up to the microphone, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Liz Woodfin, and I'm so happy and honored to be here with you all. I am a personal agent. I work at Full Access High Desert. We're a brokerage that helps coordinate services and supports for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I'm happy to be here and be a voice for those who I support. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
I think if I can just say, in conducting the interviews, thank you to those members who are able to join. What an incredible panel we have now of COBAC members. So much breadth and depth of knowledge and experience, and where you are in the communities. It's very exciting to see where this goes from here. So thank you so much for joining us.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 9, COBAC 2022-2023 strategic plan, new member groups. So how do you want to do this?
I've preliminarily, based on interview answers, placed Stephanie, Derek in the transportation and infrastructure group. They can certainly change if they'd like to. And then I think Liz, and Kelly, we will have join with the creating a culture of accessibility. And there's also the question I put on the floor, if it's acceptable to the members to truncate and have creating accessible community and creating a culture of accessibility within Bend combined to create one powerful supergroup, if you will. That's a potential, just for sake of ease of planning, having meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So
Great. And now that we have a lot of members, what is the minimum number in order to have a meeting notification?
So it's going to be any contemplation. So even if it was 2 people, we'll have to go ahead and notice that. But
Okay.
Lisa and I are happy to do that. And we can either pick a date and time for each group or figure out what might be best for individual people.
Got it.
Cassandra, I wonder if it's worth doing a reminder or an explainer for our new members about those meeting rules.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up, Carl. We're with HREC, who is another commission, and it's Human Rights and Equity Commission. We just had new members join as well. So we were planning to, with the chair, have a joint meeting of all new members to review. Eric King was planning to attend to kind of give us an overview of where the commissions and committees come from, the code, the ordinance. And then we'd also have a really minor review potentially from legal department to talk about Robert's rules, to talk about when we cannot meet and what we can and can't discuss. So just really a comprehensive understanding of potentially any questions you have. And then Manoj, who is the chair of HREC, really wanted to open it up to questions and have it be less structured and informal of like, what are things that you're apprehensive about? What would you like to share? Like, what kind of questions do you have? Just a time for all new members to be able to ask questions, because we do acknowledge that sometimes the Roberts rules and all of the things can feel like a barrier to participation and feel a little intimidating. Like, how do I second a motion and why should I do this? And so that we really want to make sure that's explained and available to give kind of the overview, the holistic view, but then also get into personal questions too. So we are trying to plan that for, I think, mid-June right now. But I will be sending Lisa and I will be sending packets with just kind of a really quick overview of those particular items, because it is really important and we want to make sure everybody knows what we're up to. So.
Great.
With the combining those 2 groups, does Kovac need for Robert Rules of Order, do we need to do a motion on that too?
That would be great. I think it's really up to if we're doing it formally to do it, to truncate it in the strategic plan, that would be fantastic. But if you just want to keep it for the purpose of the creation of a subcommittee, I don't think you'd need a motion for that. So it's up to you all.
I'll do it just for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, is there a motion to combine the subcommittee of creating an accessible community and creating a culture of accessibility within the COB?
John, I'm sorry, this is Carl. I'd like to maybe debate that a little bit first.
Okay.
The goals, they both have culture of accessibility or creating accessibility in the name, but I do think they're a bit different. One of them is fundamentally about government, right? And the City of Bend organization. And I think that the skills and the actual work of that committee, if it were separate, might be a bit different from the creating an accessible community one. And I think if we were still as small of a group as we were until today, I think I would support combining them. But now that we have all of these members, I think it might be helpful to hear from some of our new members about, I suppose, which of those priorities they're most interested in, and also whether they think it's worth combining them or keeping them separate.
Okay.
Well, Kelly is not present, but during the interview, she did share that she's very interested in working in potentially the policies and looking at kind of education factors and accessibility within the City of Bend, but then had said, a lot of that could be overlap, I believe, with the second group.
Is part of the idea also that the people that were interested in 2 were also interested in 3, so it's the same people, but then it would require the people meeting to differentiate their time from the different subcommittees.
That's correct. It was not only just because they have similar language, but also the members would be identical. And so it's a streamlined process to potentially have a longer subcommittee meeting where you could have, the first half dedicated to the community, the second half potentially dedicated specifically to the city. But that would be up to the members of the subcommittee.
I guess that might, in a way, turn somebody off who's only interested in one of the two, because then they'd have to attend both meetings. That's,
If we had separate meetings, yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, even if they were the same meeting, I would show up wanting to create an accessible community, and I'd have to sit through 45 minutes of subcommittee number 3 in order to get to my bread and butter, which is subcommittee number 2.
Yeah, it also creates a really large laundry list of things that we had brainstormed, because we'd be combining 2 and 3. I suppose that new group or new subcommittee would want to pare down the list a little bit. Which is probably doable.
I think somebody just called for me. Is that right?
Your hands up.
Okay, great. I was just gonna say that I agree with Carl about how like they are, very separate topical things, and even if they are the same people, having the discussion kind of at the same time could definitely just muddle that and the intention. Neither of these are the committees that I'd be associated with, so just a comment, I guess, about the potential for that.
I have a question too. If this is Nicholas, if the public meeting laws still apply to these subcommittees now, because I think part of the purpose of us creating those was so we can have some more organic conversations. And so if we are going back to having these as public meetings, does it make sense to have subcommittee meetings? And just throwing that out there. And if we don't craft that within this meeting and go a little bit longer.
Yeah, this is John. I mean, part of the allure of the subcommittees was that it wasn't announced ahead of time, and it could just be more of an exploratory discussion over coffee. But if even 2 people meet up, does that really make sense to have to go through that whole process?
Or does it make sense to keep it within the confines of this monthly meeting?
Yeah.
It's just a thought process with there. And I know there's a lot of overlap because I'm still kind of interested in 1, 2, and 3, though I'm more interested in 1. So it's kind of just, I'm thinking out loud here and just trying to come up with some thoughts and strategies.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is John. Sorry, you had your hand up.
That's okay. I'll go after you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, part of the reason, part of the attraction of the subcommittee was that it was a place that you didn't have to worry about time limits or wasting people's time that are here viewing from the public, discussing something that might not go to anywhere. So if that's kind of written off the table, then maybe it should stay within the confines of the larger meeting and be more structured. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, just it's not all there in my mind of where it's going, but I'm thinking of that next step and the next iteration of how the strategic plan gets implemented.
Yeah.
Cassandra, could you clarify on that a little bit about the public meeting status for the subcommittees?
Yeah, why is it 2 and not quorum?
So that is the most recent information I received from the legal team, is that because I did want to check after some feedback from you all saying that's really restrictive, which I agree with. But we do need to continue to have any meeting that discusses potentially any kind of recommendation or resolution that you would bring to the big group, saying, for instance, we want to elevate these 3 topics and we're going to present it to the main COBAC group, would mean that consideration would need to be part of the public record. And so we would have to notice it and then appear kind of similarly on camera and have it available to public to attend and provide feedback on because of the consideration. Does that kind of answer that, Carl?
I think so. So this is Carl, just to confirm what I heard. Not only does it have to be announced in advance and open to the public, to any members who would want to attend, it also has to be done online and has to be recorded and has to be held here, or?
And have minutes.
Oh, it has to be here?
Yes, at this point, the locations that we have are in City Hall. And I think the municipal court may be one other option of a place to hold it, but it has to be available with the cameras and kind of the technology that we have set up to have it not only on YouTube streaming, but then also via Zoom for the record, then to be included in city record.
Do you know whether it has to be held during certain hours?
That's relatively flexible, but we do run into issues with after hour meetings. Like typically subcommittee meetings are held during the day, like a lunch hour. But we could be open to having like a 5 to 6 or a 6:30 or something like that.
That's good to know. I think speaking personally, that I have more time available outside of business hours for Kodak business, so that would be nice. But just to give my take on this, I think that there's not enough time during our monthly meeting to really get in depth into these kinds of issues that the subcommittees are charged with tackling. And so I think it's a good idea to continue to have the subcommittees meet separately, even if we are under these restrictions. Obviously, it would be better if we could meet more informally, but even if we can't, I think it's still worth doing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, but I changed my question. Let's see. So I'm going back to thinking about combining groups 2 and 3. I'm not so sure that they're not exactly the same thing, right? I'm not so sure they should be combined, but I think maybe we could start out together, figure out, the main ideas within each group and, how much overlap there is, and then if we should separate at that point. Yeah. Eric?
Yeah, I was just going to make a general comment. Given I don't know a whole lot about the strategic planning effort, but I've written strategic plans for organizations, and just it seems like separating maybe in the beginning and the outset of this, we could have like a combined meeting, because I feel like the improving transportation and infrastructure is pretty relevant to both 2 and 3, right? So I guess if you're doing these things in a vacuum, working independently, not really knowing how they connect with the whole. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to do one big meeting and it's in person, we have breakouts, or, maybe that lessens kind of the restrictive nature of the public meeting laws. Instead of having 3 separate meetings, we could meet as a group and just break out and then come back and kind of share what we've learned. I just feel like, I need to know a little bit more about 2 and 3 before digging into 1 would be my preference, but I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Just wanted to throw that out there.
If this is Cassandra, if I could share also, I think that the purpose behind the subcommittee meetings is really to look at the strategic plan and elevate 1 to 2 to 3 action items that the group feels like this is really what we want to accomplish the rest of this year, and bring that back to the main group. And then we could all collectively discuss, like, these are the kind of things that we have, like potentially up to 9 projects that Kodak is either, contemplating, wants to put on, the front burner or the back burner. But that's really what the initial rationale behind having the subcommittee meetings happen outside of the Kodak meeting. So just to give you just that context and background about why those were broken out like they were in the subcommittees, why they were contemplated.
This is John. I guess just the design of this building would behoove us to combine the second 2 committees, and then we could have a breakout session, one in the back room, which could be on video, and one here for 15 minutes during our regularly scheduled meeting. And then we could meet back up. I mean, I'm just trying to figure out how to make this work so it's not a pain.
And this is Cassandra. That's something I could look into. I think the logistics of having 2 feeds at the same time.
Right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
It's a little bit, and I want to preface all this by saying, like, I appreciate all of your ideas, and I know that we're working within constraints, and it's not great for the free flow of ideas and ideal, but it is the reality of serving on the committee. But all the creativity you can bring, I'll look into and do my due diligence to see if that's something that we can accommodate.
Our meeting today is early because there's other
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I'll just throw out this Nicholas again, I'll throw out an idea of like, I think we should set up, I do agree with Carl that we can't cover everything in this meeting, so I'd like to throw out a motion, make a motion to set up an initial strategic plan subcommittee larger meeting here soon to be able to discuss these and then start to formulate breakout subcommittee meetings from there.
Okay.
We can discuss or that. Does that make sense? To at least get this on the docket so we can schedule this next subcommittee.
Yep, and if people would like to hear more about that, Nick, like I think an option also is you could say, we're going to dedicate the whole of our May meeting to discussing these items. If you're thinking we want to open that up to the whole group, that's also an option.
Could I just make a comment? I always want people to have the freedom to get information. You know, whenever public meeting law, you know, it shouldn't be used to keep people from making good decision. You know, it's not supposed to keep people from learning. And the reason two of you could meet for coffee every single day of the week and talk about Koback business and strategize and think. The difference is these groups are advising and making recommendations to the entire group. And because they're doing that officially, they have to follow the same rules as the entire group. But again, if any 2, 3, all the way up to quorum are meeting unofficially, you know, the law doesn't want to stop you from doing that. You know, I always look at what does the law want from us? You know, it doesn't want us to not have information. It doesn't want us to not, you know, strategize and talk to each other. It's just in the context of those advisory committee meetings that we've got to be super careful about quorum. And yeah, same rules as the whole group. And then just for my own little comment, it kind of sounds to me like the first decision of that group that's taking on those number 1 and 2 or number 2 and 3 will be to think about, you know, do we want to break into 2 separate groups? And, you know, under what circumstances do we want to have separate meetings or separate groups? But that's just my opinion. And thank you very much.
This is John. So Cassandra, you're telling me that if, like, for instance, Barb's at a fundraiser and let's say Megan Perkins is there and Megan casually comes up and says, you know, I'm thinking about bringing this up at a city council meeting.
All
Like,
day
that's
long.
a violation right there?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, not unless I then go to 2 other counselors. I can't then go to, I can go to Anthony. I can go to one other and say, hey, Megan and I were talking about this thing. What do you think? I can't then go to the 4th person and say, Megan and Anthony and I have been talking. What do you think? That is now creating, what do they call it? Sequential or something where, you know, even if you're doing it one at a time, you're still breaking that quorum. You know, I'm still talking to more than 3. So for me, the answer is 3. As long as it's only 3, as long as it's just me and Megan, and I don't extend that to, hey, Megan said this. Does that, you know, honestly, John, so many hours of my life have been on this and, you know, arguing with Mary about what do I get to do or not get to do. Yeah.
But it seems like we don't have that flexibility, right?
I think I can revisit this with legal. I would say to Barb's point that the 2 individuals could speak about general Koback business so long as they don't come in front of Koback to provide recommendation based on the meeting that they had that was private and not privy to the general public, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I will revisit this and I will provide a document with like clear kind of guidance if that helps. And I think that was part of the general meeting that we were planning for June as well, just to be clear, because it is hard. There's a lot of gray lines and you're on the fence about some things and what you're not. But I think if you think about the policy that underlines it, is that we want to make sure that the public knows what's going on, like the
Yes.
transparency,
Yes.
that's at the heart of it. So
Yes.
remembering that we don't want to do anything that seems like you're behind closed doors and making decisions and how did you come to this? So that's essentially what it is. So we're going to do our best to be in compliance with that. And I will follow up with each of you with the information I get.
But Mary's spidey senses are probably going off this very minute. Barb's telling people they can talk to each other. Yeah. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I really don't. I just want, anybody, getting information and talking. And yeah, it has to do with being officially selected to advise this group. If Megan and I are officially appointed as a committee that's going to advise all of council, then no, we cannot get together in the corner of that, party and discuss that issue. It's all about what you have been created to do and if you're advising the whole group.
I won't get into email correspondence, but this is Nicholas.
Oh, no.
As
No, I'm
far
not
as
seeing
supporting
this.
schedules to set up these subcommittee meetings, right? How does that work with the same process? Like, because in this meeting, we may not have the opportunity to coordinate our schedules to be able to find the time to meet. But having emails between those subcommittee members, that becomes public. So how does that work? How do we
Yeah.
coordinate?
This is Cassandra. That's why I deferred generally to doodle polls. And so that would just be information to let us know about your availability, whether you can make it. And, one of the positives to the public meeting is that it's recorded so that if a member is like, I can't meet during this time, they can follow back up, watch the recording. And then I'm always able to join somebody and talk through things and provide it then to the appropriate channels with emails. And again, acknowledging that this is not streamlined and not always easy to navigate and to do our best just to work around it. So thank you, Nick.
Okay, so where do we stand on meeting with committees?
I think Nick had a motion on the floor.
Okay.
I will retract my motion. Instead, refer to Cassandra setting up the polls for this.
Okay,
Sort of set.
excellent.
This is Carl. I'm not sure if I understood what Nick was proposing before or not, but did you say that maybe we could come up with a time for all of us to meet and then break up into subcommittees within that meeting? That does sound like a good idea if it's possible. I don't know, then.
It has to be recorded and broadcast and.
Yes. Or the people not in it could be sitting in the audience at that time and then listen in and maybe provide some initial feedback. If they're like, hey, we're talking about this on the transportation one, or we're talking about this one on the creating accessible community.
Just a quick clarification on that and stop me if I'm not handling Mary appropriately, but there is a new law in the state of Oregon that all of your meetings have to be accessible either virtually or by phone. So you couldn't just have an open public meeting and notice it, let everybody know that they're welcome to participate in the public meeting. You have to provide those other mechanisms, which goes back to the challenges around space and making sure that our meetings are open and available to everyone. Derek?
Yeah, I was just wondering if is it a possibility to just expand on one of our existing meetings, either like creating like an hour before, an hour after? I mean, I think it would be great if we were in person talking about this. That way we have everything set up. I'm a little under the weather this week, so I chose to participate virtually, but I can definitely in future meetings be there in person. I'm just wondering if it makes it easier to just add on like an extra 45 minutes or an hour to our existing meeting. That way we have everything set up. You can just notice it as such. We're all here to begin with, if that's helpful at all or possible.
You have to think of the IT perspective of it as well. I mean, I don't know how that would go. If you could just run on the meeting and have it a subcommittee, or I have to, start another meeting.
Yeah. Let us, just for the sake of time, because I know that we have precious minutes.
Yeah.
Let us, take this back, contemplate, come up with options, and I'll email those out to you as we go forward and move on with planning subcommittees or potentially Derek, your idea. Thank you for a longer extended COBAC meeting.
Just, I'd like to say before this is John, is there a list of minimum requirements for a public meeting as far as video setup and everything that I could find somewhere?
I will provide that to you. Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Does CET have an office you want to lend us?
Yeah, we can meet in our office if you want.
Go take over the ODOT building. Cool, all right. Well, moving on. Number 10, COBAC business. We have the Winter Access Award nominations. Carl, would you like to?
Sure. So I think there's only one nominee for the Winter Access Award. And I was the one who nominated that business. The business was Emerald City Smoothie, their Greenwood Avenue location. Specifically their store manager, Lexi Baker, who did a great job of clearing their sidewalks promptly following winter storms. So since they are the only nominee, I would like to make the motion to approve Emerald City Smoothie Greenwood for the Winter Access Award.
I would like to second that motion. This is John. All in favor?
Corey?
She's got her hand raised.
Looks unanimous.
Okay, thank you. It looks like it's approved.
Yep, so the Winter Access Award is approved for Emerald City Smoothie. Is this a gift certificate that's gonna go to Lexi, who's the manager there, or what is the award?
I think it's just a certificate.
Fair enough. Oh, cool.
Oh, good. I was gonna volunteer to go to the site and give it to them, but great.
All right, item number 11, COBAC Roundtable. City of Bend Accessibility Advisory Committee members have an opportunity to share meetings attended, any information you want to share, firsthand experiences impacted by accessibility and future agenda setting. Would anyone like to start? I will start. I held a fundraiser for Oregon Adaptive Sports at my bar. We raised, including merch sales, a little over $1,600, not including merch sales. It was a little over $1,500, which was a lot of fun. I am now 40. That sucks. But at least we got to do something really fun that night and it seemed like everybody had a good time. So that's what I've been doing. So.
Thanks for doing that, John.
Yeah. Anyone else? Meetings attended?
Stephanie, not to put you on the spot, but would you mind sharing about the upcoming COCA meeting?
Our upcoming COCA meeting, it's the second Tuesday in May. I'm gonna get my phone up, find out. Derek might be able to pull it faster than I can. He's on the COCA committee too. Pull that up.
That's how I recognize your name.
Oh, yes, yeah. So I co-chair the Central Oregon Coalition on Access with Kim Curley. And Derek attends those meetings as well. It is on Tuesday, May 9th. And we meet, the general meeting meets every other month on odd months because that will be May, yes. So every other month on odd months, and then our steering committee meets the every other month on even months. And so we've got that meeting coming up, I believe, and that's something I probably need to, I was kind of hoping I would run into you today, Derek's, we needed to talk about who's going to be coming to the COCA meeting. I believe we're going to have a little presentation from CODSN, Central Oregon Disability Support Network, and possibly Cascades East Transit as well. So, but the meetings are open to the public. We have just started inviting city councilors and the county commissioners. And so they're held at the Armand Room in Deschutes County.
Great. This is John. Question I have is, I've been trying to figure out how to subscribe to notifications that your meetings are happening, and I can't seem to find any information about the organization or the group.
That's a good question.
You know, I only found out about it because Cassandra looped me in one time, but how do I get notifications for meetings?
Just ask for.
Okay, is there a subscription or? Okay,
Thing.
yeah,
An online presence. So you can contact anybody who's on COCA, and we have a distribution list of a little over 100 people, maybe, well, now that I added city councilors and county commissioners, it's grown. So we're probably up to 125 or so. But our meetings are still small. They kind of pared down when we went virtual because of COVID. The meetings used to be chaired by, oh gosh, Derek. Carol Fulkerson. And back then, the meetings were very well attended. We had representatives from all 3 counties and all the cities within Bend, but then they really kind of scaled down when COVID hit. Kim and myself are co-chairs, and our meetings are somewhere in the 10 to 20 range. You can attend both in person and virtually, and we do send out a Zoom link. So I will have a chat with Kim also. She's out on medical leave right now, but try to figure out if we could create some kind of a landing page, just so we can create some general information. Put the link for those who want to attend virtually, and then also the meeting times for those who want to attend in person. The general meeting is held on the 2nd Tuesday of odd number months in the Armand Room at Deschutes County, and it starts at 3 o'clock, goes till 4:30. And it's open to the public, and we can add you to the email distribution list. So I will definitely do that.
yes.
Yeah. So May, what did I say?
May 9th.
Thank you. May 9th at 3 o'clock.
Whitney and then Corey.
Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. I have something just to add, not a question. So I don't know if Corey has a question. Okay. One of the things that we are putting on, or we're engaged with, I'd say Commute Options here, is May is the Walk and Roll to School month, and we're going to do a walk. We're working with the city and Oregon Department of Transportation and do a walk and roll about on May 30th. And the idea is to get people out there to kind of share, it's a shared experience of walking or rolling while living with a disability. And we're going to meet at a roundabout and kind of explore what it's like to experience the roundabouts, how we design them with different varied abilities. So I just wanted to share that with everyone. That's on May 30th at 12:30 we're meeting at the Trinity Lutheran School on Northeast Butler Market.
This is Corey. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. So this isn't a city meeting or anything, but I thought I would share because it was really wonderful. I recently took a series of webinars, like a class, I guess, from the Health Justice Commons about environmental racism and the medical industrial complex. And it was Health Justice Commons is largely comprised of disabled people. And it was the first meeting or event that I've been to that was like in earnest seeking accessibility as much as possible. And they had Spanish interpretation, Spanish and English captions, ASL, and different channels people could tune into depending on their like language needs or whatever, or their language or their captioning needs, or it was very slow, so that there was opportunity for translation and things like that, and opportunity for people to ask questions or share reflections or anything like that. And it was, kind of been socialized, I guess, to have a sense of urgency and like time, hurrying through things, but the pace of it and it's like focused on accessibility really like allowed me to sit with the content a lot more than I have in a long time, even though I'm really familiar with the subject matter. And I just wanted to share how wonderful of an experience that was, to be in a truly accessible space and or a space that sought to be truly accessible. And I thought maybe y'all would appreciate that.
Great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can go. So Derek Hoffbauer, thanks again for having me on the committee. Eric provided a lot of CET relevant updates, so I'll just kind of go off of some other topics. We did participate in the CODSN Breaking Barriers Conference, which was a few weeks ago. It was really great. We tabled in the lobby, gave a lot of information to the participants about our dial-a-ride service options and heard a lot of feedback. A lot of individuals at that conference were customers of CET and had a lot of really good feedback for us. So it was really busy at the table, giving information and just hearing about some of the experiences that our riders had with using our services. The other thing I wanted to tag off of Whitney's comment about the roundabout tour we're going to be doing. We do have a CET bus driver that's going to be operating one of our low floor buses. So we'll be meeting in the parking lot and he'll be driving us to the various roundabout sites. So it's fully ADA accessible. It'll be a great opportunity to kind of tour it by bus and then park, and then we'll hop out and explore it. Once we exit the bus. So thanks, Whitney and Commute Options, for teeing that up for us. And then just a couple other things. We are gearing up for our summer recreation services. So these are going to be Ride the River, our Lava Butte shuttles. And then we're also working on a new pilot project, and Barb knows about this, between Bend and Mount Bachelor and hopefully Elk Lake. So we do have a driver shift that we've designated for this. We couldn't do it last year because we didn't have enough drivers, but we've had a good influx of driver hiring, and our transportation director is prioritizing this as a pilot service that we do want to get off the ground. So we think it's going to be more of like a Thursday through Sunday service, and just kind of going up between Bend and Mount Bachelor with an ADA accessible vehicle. We're probably not going to stop at all of the trailheads this time. We're just going to do kind of a there and back service, potentially doing Mount Bachelor and then going up to Elk Lake and just having it more of a service for kind of the hiking crowd and folks who want to, bring a stand-up paddleboard that's in a backpack and things like that. So not necessarily the whole mountain bike service with a trailer, but we do have 3 racks on the front of the bus, and we can put 3 bike racks on the back. So there is some bicycle access. So I just want to let you know that we are planning that service as well. And Aaron, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was curious to learn like when that's going to start and what the frequency would be. The Sunday through Thursday, would it be like every hour or 3 hours, or any info on that?
Yeah, it's going to be, we're working on the scenarios right now. We only have like 1 driver shift that we can dedicate to it. So it's going to be basically 1 shift the Thursday through the Saturday. So it'll probably do, I think we're looking at like 2 or maybe 3 round trips at the most, kind of depending on the different stop locations. It's a pretty far distance. And we're looking at doing the service between, roughly 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So spanning throughout the day, giving people an opportunity to be able to get up there, get back down, recreate, and then catch the last shuttle down. So we're kind of working on those planning efforts right now, and I'm kind of refining the scenarios this week, and we're gonna pull together the committee and talk about some marketing and outreach efforts. And then we will be charging a fare for the service because we want it to be sustainable. We don't have funding for this next year, so for it to be sustainable, we need to make sure that the fares are going to be able to support the operations of the service, and we can then look at expanding it based on this year's performance of the service. So it's really just kind of introducing it, see how well it goes, see how popular it is, and then kind of assessing and taking it from there about how we want to potentially grow it, or if we want to start writing in some grants through the Federal Lands Access Program for future years based on its success, or if it's not successful. So we'll decide there. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, is right now Elk Lake your end of the line?
Yeah, it is. And the reason we chose Elk Lake is we do want to go to the lakes, and that has like phone service. It's ADA accessible.
Yeah.
The owners are really excited. We don't just want to like drop people off at the trailheads and be like, hey, we'll be back in a couple of hours. And so I was a little nervous about that. And I think having places where there's some like solid infrastructure, that somebody would have some kind of support or opportunities to get back if they like missed the last bus or didn't get back from their hike or something happened. So it just makes us a little more confident of having these points that we know are in self-service range, and that there's some infrastructure to support, if somebody needed something, they could get it.
No, it sounds great. That sounds like a really necessary and useful thing. So thank you for the info.
You're welcome. Thank you. And that's all I have.
Great. We have about 3 minutes left. Carl, did you want to say something really quick?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Number 12, accessibility and equity manager update.
I have so much to say, but I'll reserve the majority of this for an email, but just at a high level, please keep an eye out for, I'm going to be partnering COBAC members, and we'll tackle Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act is turning 50 this year. And we have a lot, they're doing a kind of an anniversary, and they feature a lot of the disability heroes and activists of the time. I thought it would be great for the partners to take on one of the individuals and have a way to connect to community. So that will be coming out soon. You all have been invited to a climate-friendly area study focus group. There are a couple of dates on that. I will send that in an email, but just to keep an eye out. It will take place over the lunch hour. It will be in person, and there are $25 Visa gift card stipends available. Let's see, we also have May 18th coming up as the Global Accessibility Awareness Day, and we're entertaining ideas of how we want to gather and get together and kind of promote that. So keep an eye on your email, open to suggestions or ideas. If we want to have it as a time COBAC members could come together, that's a possibility. Juneteenth is coming up, being run by the Fathers Group, as John's shirt is showing us. We do have the possibility of some COBAC members attending the City of Bend's booth area, maybe for a couple of hours, and talking to the community about COBAC and the work that we do in the intersectionality between, all things, right, in terms of activism and Black activism, specifically with disability. I think it's a great opportunity for that intersectional conversation. Another idea to float out there, beginning in the preliminary planning stages for something, it will not be called a diversity mixer, but it will be something put on with HREC and COBAC jointly, and we'll be able to invite partners like COCA and also different, maybe CET if they want to come, to have different booths. We're thinking of an idea of having vendors and food and music available, so it'll just be a nice evening to have potentially on the calendar sometime in late summer. Also, we are seeking a few COBAC members to join the HREC subcommittee, where we're developing currently a process to connect members who have experienced acts of discrimination in the community with reporting options and resources. We'd really love to have a few members join, because this is something that we want to make sure we have accessibility and access in the forefront of these conversations. And if that sounds good to anyone, just email me and we'll have you looped into those subcommittee meetings as well. And then finally, we talked about this already, keep an eye out for the information session between HREC and COBAC members, new members, for information about the city, about Robert's rules and minutes, and then a frequently asked question kind of time for anyone to ask anything. And that is that.
Great. Number 13, council member liaison update.
Yeah, you bet. For city council, we are looking for work plan. Every 2 years, there's this 5-month period, goal setting, work plan, and budget. And those three things together determine what the city's going to do for the next 2 years. So right now we're looking, I think that work plan might even be in my email box right now. Very soon we'll see that work plan, and that's where we will see more specific details. So in goal setting, we set goals around accessibility, for example, around housing, and specific targets will come from that work plan. And then the budget is that final kind of put it all together, make it official. Yes, we can actually fund the things that council wants to do and the work plan, actually can accomplish. So, it's super, super important, and a lot of information, a lot of in the weeds meetings, but that's coming up soon. And then the other update is really from the Metropolitan Planning Organization. You all know that we have had some COVID ARPA rescue money, and we have made allocations with most of that funding. We have allocated some straight over to CET for those bus stop improvements that we heard about earlier. We found funding for 15 stops, which we think will just be a great, start for our community. And I believe there will be a public process about just which 15 we're going to go after first. Is that right? Thank you. The other expenditure we went was for the city of Bend to have a small size plow / sweeper to be able to clear fully protected bike lanes, for example, and sidewalks. Always, trying to think, how can we do better? How can we help our community getting rid of snow on the sidewalks? So that's another one I am really excited about. And the third was, infrastructure along Simpson Avenue. So this is right across from the university. There are 2 affordable housing projects going in there. One will be the very largest for the city of Bend, opportunities for folks to purchase affordable homes, very much along the model that Habitat for Humanity uses. It's the land trust model. We're really excited about that. And then also Housing Works will be doing capital A affordable apartments. Well, they can find the funding for all of that. It is the infrastructure improvements that we, the city of Bend, require from these developers. We don't let them just plop in apartments without the sidewalks and bike lanes. And so our group provided the funding for that infrastructure specific to transportation. I'm excited about multi-use path, 10-foot wide multi-use path through there. We do think that that is a location that might serve really the entire region because of the proximity to the university. And so super excited about that. We still have some funding available. I've met with Carl about ideas of what we might do with that money, maybe be able to leverage I've started saying capital A accessibility, meaning that full ADA accessible infrastructure. And so I'm just really excited about the decisions we've already made. And yeah, we still have almost $300,000 that we're trying to decide how are we going to spend that last bit of money. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb.
Uh-huh.
Okay, is there any further business? All right, the next City of Bend Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting is Thursday, May 25th, 2023 from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Since there's no further business, the meeting is adjourned at